at the masked man who came out from underneath the ring, and he's going to pull the mask off.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out. I bet you it's Arn Anderson. I bet you it's Arn Anderson.
Here it is.
Yes, Lord. Oh, my.
It's Brother Brudai. Oh, my God.
He has butchered a friendship. That man has butchered a friendship.
That's not all he's butchered. He's a backstabber. It's his close friend.
Oh, he thought it was his close friend. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Can you believe this, like brothers?
Can you believe this? Can you believe this?
Hogan is stunned. He cannot even. And there's Kevin Sullivan. And the building's starting to rumble. It's like an avalanche. Oh, my God.
Oh, look who's here. The big man.
And they're pounding Hogan. If that's his brother.
I don't want a brother like that.
Neither do I, for crying out loud.
Hulkamania may be over right now. Watch this, watch this. Oh. This man's got to be well over 500 pounds.
That's the man. That's Brother Brudai, for crying out loud.
That man did it. That man's a butcher. That man butchered that friendship. He did something that should have been done a long time ago. He got tired of playing second fiddle to Hulk Hogan. He knew what Hulkamania was all about. It was about nothing. It stunk. Finish him off, big man. Avalanche him. Avalanche him.
All right, Mean Gene Okerlund has joined us here. Gene, have you ever seen anything like this in his greatest moment of glory for Hulk Hogan? What happens?
Wait a minute, Tony, here comes Sting out of the ring. Back to this man in this melee tonight in front of this capacity crowd of the Motor City.
He's going upstairs.
Oh! Sting out of the dressing room to help the world champion Hulk Hogan.
What more can happen now? What more can happen now? Somebody call the police.
You know, here was a night that should have belonged to either Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair. Instead, this thing has been turned completely upside down as personality after personality has interjected itself into this one-on-one confrontation.
And don't think for 1 minute the pain that's going through Hogan's body right now. You don't think he's hurt, you don't think he's busted up, yes, but his heart is broken. His best friend turned on him. Well, if he was your best friend...
This guy is like a brother to him, Heyman.
Well, he's not a good brother. He's Brother Butcher as far as I'm concerned. He was tired of having to take a back seat to Hulk Hogan. He did what had to be done. And I say to him, great, 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 thank you, thank you. You made my evening.
Well, there, Sting is helping the Hulkster out.
I'll tell you what, the physical pain is one thing, Tony, but the psychological scars. Listen to this crowd chant Hogan. The psychological scars.
Shake it off.
I cannot believe it.
Shake it off.
Brother Brutai.
This is the Pro Wrestling Reflection Podcast with your host, the Professor Chalbelo Veracruz.
What a run!
Mr. Wonderful Tommy Wonder.
And I will take the powers of those that have no fear!
And the prodigal one, JB.
The queen, yeah. The cream of the crop.
Now it's time to go back in time in the time machine.
The American Dream! Dusty Road! Too sweet!
The living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo! Look at this.
I don't believe it.
What is going on there, Reflection Nights? What is going on there to the Vetoites, the HAMINites, and the probationary solitary confinement PWCites? What is going on to the leftites, the rightites, the demites, the republics? What is going on to the Magnificent Seven, the Elite Eight, the Naughty Nine? Probably I'll stop at 9 because I don't know if I can go on to the Terrific 10 and the Eloquent 11 and the Terrific 12 and all that stuff, because again, I got to build up numbers again. I got to build up people again. But anyway, neither here nor there. What is going on to all the ites all over the world, the crazy world we live in? You know, DoorDash deliveries fucking up, Amazon deliveries fucking up, UPS deliveries fucking up. You know, when you have supposedly a Prime account, it's supposed to be delivered to your door, right? Reflectionites, it never works that way. And then you got motherfuckers stealing your items too. What is going on to customer service at Starbucks? What's going on to customer service at the malls? What is going on to just, well, you know, sometimes they say the customer's always right, but no, sometimes the customer's always a dick too. So you know what? It's gotta be a balance. There's no balance to the force. But anyway, again, neither here nor there. So with that being said, welcome to episode 197. God damn it, 197. 3 episodes away from the elusive 200 here at the PWR podcast at the HAMIN Media Group at podbean.com. And welcome to a special episodic edition of the PWR podcast. And with that being said, I must introduce myself because I am vain like that. I must introduce myself because, again, I'm getting older every day. The body's crinkling and all that stuff. So I gotta do it. I gotta do a glorious intro so this way I can feel younger every day. I am the elusive one. I am the studious one. I'm the effervescent one. But most importantly, I am the glorious one. The only objective man in this IWC, YWC, PWC punditry. The only objective man in this Twitterverse. The only objective man in this social media conundrum. Your friend and mine, the Professor Chabelle Cruz. And I'm not here alone. No. I'm here with my brother from another mother, the conservative liberal conservative, dumb doer, idiot zone, the iron stomach one, Dr. freaking Stein. Oh, wait a minute. That was a melodious slip of the tongue. He is the solo idiot. I got it. You know, again, it's a crazy day. It's a crazy way, you know, for the weekend to start. But I get it right, Reflectionites. I'll get it right. But I got this one right all the time. He is the undisputed, undeniable Detroit Rock City Universal Heavyweight Champion of the world, the Tommy Wonder. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing. I was gonna dig out my jacket, and I forgot.
That's it. That is great entertainment. I'm just gonna deliver. I'm gonna do my jacket, and then you just turn around.
Because I was gonna wear this in my jacket. This man was on pay-per-view that we watched.
I got that part. I'm just saying, you know, you got to entertain the masses. You got to entertain.
I got caught up, man. I was jailbreaking a Fire Stick, pairing remotes, and then I ran out of time. But then I completely forgot to go get my jacket. But I don't even know where it is. I think it's in the garage.
Well, you know, for the audio Reflectionites, he's wearing a Baywatch shirt, so wearing a Stars and Stripes mask with a jacket, but then a Baywatch shirt just doesn't match. It just.
Well, I would have been sure. I would have been like just showing titty underneath.
Oh, okay, I got it. Well, thank God you forgot your jacket, so I didn't have to see your titties. But with that being said, you know, let's get on with this episodic episode. Again, 197 TW works so close to the elusive 200. So, you know, again, Donnie Day 1, hopefully he's still, you know what? I feel like this. He's now not listening to the program, and we're getting so he's gonna pile it up. So this way, you know, again, if we're gonna record Donnie, I'm just gonna say this right now, I might just have you to record an intro for the elusive 200. So this way we save further, you know, delays and all that stuff. I want you here, but of course, you know, you got your life, your livelihood to do. I got my livelihood to do. PW's got his livelihood to do. So you know what? The The alignment might not be there, but I will get you recorded somehow, some way. We will do this for the Elusive 200. But with that being said, let's get on with episode 197 TW. And this is October. This is Halloween season, and we haven't done it in a couple of years. I thought it would be apropos to do a Halloween Havoc edition here at the PWR podcast at the HAMIN Media Group at podbean.com. And you know what? We did the first one. We did 93, and I know TW remembers his 1998 rant because he hates the Ultimate Warrior against Hulk Hogan match forever. He does not want to see it. He does not want to talk about it. He does not want it to exist. It's the Mandela effect. He only remembers the Toronto Hogan Warrior match, but he'll never remember the Halloween Havoc Hogan Warrior match. But I didn't want to hurt him. I didn't want to punish him here. So I figured we'd go back to 1994 and do that particular Halloween Havoc edition from the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan, TW, your neck of the woods, your hometown and all that stuff. So before we even talk about the pay-per-view and what was going on and the main storyline and shit like that, because that's what we do here at the PWR podcast, I thought we should talk about the attempts of the current executive vice president of WCW at this time, Eric Bischoff, and his plan, his grand master plan of nationalizing WCW, from taking it from that southern doldrum that he thought it was to making it a global powerhouse. And eventually he got it the way he wanted it in 97 and 98, where he made that massive $50 million profit, but neither here nor there. But you can see his stamp of approval of this particular Halloween Havoc. This is his vision. He's got the country music star. He's got Muhammad Ali. He's got the celebrities. He's got Mr. T. He wants to do what Vince McMahon did in the 80s. He wants to legitimize WCW, not only for mainstream crossover attempts, but so this way USA Today can pick him up, all the trade shows, the Tonight Show. This is what he wanted to do. He wanted to compete with Vince. See, the thing is, when you compete with WWE, there's levels to this. It's not about Meltzer 5-star classics reflection nights. That's just one part of it. It's branding, it's marketing, it's crossover, it's mainstream, it's doing businesses with Hollywood, it's doing businesses with television shows. So TW, from that standpoint, Halloween Havoc 94, Bischoff's vision, of course he's copying Vince McMahon, but what say you about that? Because he wanted WCW to be that legitimate.
I can't believe you got the man who was sitting there and got interviewed and the crowd booed him when they announced him, Thomas Hitman Hearns.
Well,
absolutely. And I think I told you beforehand, I think I was at this one, but it's weird because the very next year, were they back in Detroit?
There was in the other hall, whatever that's called.
Palace? Cobo Hall.
No, the Cobo Hall.
But a year later, because the next year was the monster trucks on the roof, and I was at that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I went to this one. This was my first year in the wrestling business. I was about 6 months in, and it was frowned upon to watch wrestling, let alone pay it for a ticket to go to see one. The Halloween Havoc that had the monster trucks on the roof. I don't even know if I was at that one now I think about it. I was at one that was at the Palace with not Roy Jones Jr., but who's the other boxer, light heavyweight from, man, I can't think of who he is. Damn, Michael Moore.
Mm-hmm.
He was at it. He was sitting right in front of me, but I got comp tickets. So I had pride in me that I wouldn't go to a wrestling show and pay for it. I had to get free tickets. But this was this was a show. It started off with me going, all the bitching I did about these long shows, and I enjoyed the beginning of this show.
You did? Why did you?
And I really, really, I expected Bobby to take a shit on Detroit, but he really only took one insult, and he called the Detroit Lions the Detroit Pussycats because they sucked back then. And everyone was calling them that. Uh-huh. But he did a nice opening to put over Detroit. Talked about Motown, Gordie Howe, Alex Karras being a wrestler against the Sheik, and also a Detroit Pussycat. He talked about the last 30-year 30-win pitcher in the major leagues was Denny McClain for the Tigers. He talked about all that stuff and really put Detroit over. And then they had Muhammad Ali. They basically honored him. They had Tommy Hearns. They did everything you said. They made it about more than just their product. They made it about the social, whatever. What's the world, the country, the
like I said, legitimize themselves into the mainstream masses and all that stuff. So
pop culture. That's the word I'm looking for. Pop culture.
Pop culture is another good word too. So with that being said, let's not forget with Eric Bischoff, you know, the roots were planted in the Detroit area. The roots were planted in Milwaukee and Chicago because that is AWA territory. So, you know, he got his feet wet.
And he's from Michigan.
Yeah, and he's from Michigan. So, you know, he got his feet wet with AWA. And again, his vision was not to forget the Southern territories, but he knew to legitimize WCW, you had to go to the AWA territories of Detroit, Chicago, and shit like that. And of course, you know, when he felt like it was time and he was ready to really take on Vince McMahon to go to the East Coast, the New York, the Boston, and the Philadelphia areas and all that stuff too. So with that being said, one more thing, TW, about this, because again, one thing before we even talk about some of these matches, and this is where Eric Bischoff, you know, gave everything. He gave carte blanche to Hulk Hogan. Whatever he wanted, whatever he desired, besides the money, TW, we know this. He got the money, he got the creative control and all that shit. He got his people. That's one thing. You notice the WWE people that started coming in thanks to Hulk Hogan. The Honky Tonk Man came in, the Big Boss Man who changed his name to, you know, the Guardian Angel. We saw, you know, Brutus Beefcake. You know, we'll talk about Brutus Beefcake later and shit like that. But Hacksaw Jim Duggan comes to WCW because of Hulk Hogan and all that stuff. So
Nasty Boys.
The Nasty Boys too, because, you know, Brian Knobbs is a Hulk Hogan guy. But one thing that's paramount, TW, with this particular pay-per-view, that not that I didn't notice it, but after all these years, 30 plus years, TW, we have to acknowledge he was giving carte blanche to Hulk Hogan with this pay-per-view, and we'll talk about the storyline in the second Reflection Nights. But you notice who was not on the card, who did not have a match, who did not have a, let's say, a B-level storyline, a mid-card, top-tier worthy storyline, and that is Sting. Sting was next to Muhammad Ali Reflection Nights. Sting was doing, let's say, the ambassadorship and all that stuff. But to me, in the professor's humble opinion, TW, Sting is not on the high priority list because of Hulk Hogan being there. Because Hulk Hogan, you know, as much as anything, Hulk Hogan can be arrogant and the ego. But one thing Hulk Hogan has is the numbers. He's got the receipts. Hulk Hogan could say, I sold out the Silver Dome, 93,000. I sold out Toronto, 65,000 and all that stuff. I sold out Madison Square Garden a bunch of fucking times. You know, I'm probably second to Bruno Sammartino, even though that's probably a lie. But again, I don't know about all that stuff. You know.
They're all second to Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Well, Bruno still has the record, so he'll tell you that to his grave. But anyway, neither here nor there.
I heard Austin did like a run that was never done before, 25 straight or something.
Well, remember,
maybe Bruno has most all time. But not in a row.
Well, I don't know about in a row, but Bruno still has all time. But again, TW, what say you again? Bischoff was giving carte blanche to Hogan and everything he asked for, but the man that's been loyal to WCW, and remember, we did a what if Sting jumped to WWF. Remember, we did that episode because this is what, you know, we felt at the time. It's like he felt like he was put on the back burner. So what say you, TW? You're actually seeing this here at Halloween Havoc 94. It didn't feel important.
I think I know what they were doing.
What were they doing?
First of all, they kept saying what you're saying. Why isn't Sting on the show? Why isn't he at Halloween Havoc? But they were almost making it like it was his fault. And then I'm like, he is there. He's doing your stupid hotline. What do you mean he's not there? But they meant he doesn't have a match. But in the end, not to get ahead of the main event, but inevitably what happens is Sting is involved, and he's either giving the rub to Hulk Hogan, to these hillbilly fans, or since it's in Detroit, Hogan's giving the rub to Sting so that these Detroit fans will start watching this hillbilly wrestling.
So in essence, you're saying, because again, Sting is, you know, the Greensboro guy. He's the North Kakalaki guy, the South Kakalaki guy, Flair country, Horseman country. his job is to put Hogan over. That's actually a good analogy. And then with the Detroit AWA territory, the East Coast territory, Hogan is doing that job. But again, but TW, I get that. I actually agree with that with our fandom eyes. But I'm talking about Bischoff. It felt like to me, Bischoff did not put enough of a priority with Sting because again, you got Hogan in tier 1. Again, I'm not disputing Hogan's credentials and receipts, TW, but you got the man called Sting, who's been multiple time WCW champion, NWA champion. You know, he had his wars with Ric Flair. He has sold out those arenas in the South. So, you know, you could have given him, especially in 1994, a comparable mid-card to semi-main event level storyline. Not to be, and then to me,
I know right where you could have did it too.
No. And let me just say this, and you can retort back, because to me, when we did What If, again, I always said, to me, Sting felt jaded to me because of Hogan coming in. He became Hogan's lackey boy. He became the Dan Spivey when Hogan gets attacked, and he's the one that's got to come and save the day and all that shit. That's not Sting's job. And then, of course, Macho Man, and then Macho Man comes a couple of months later, and then he's down a pillar again to number 3. That's what I'm just saying. He didn't feel important, and I think even though our What If is correct, he should have tried and went to WWF in '94. But again, neither here nor there. What's the ETW? Retort back.
So, are we gonna go match by match, or are we just talking about the show?
The whole show.
All right. So, I did not know until today that Stone Cold Steve Austin got Honky Tonk Man by the fucking hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Wait, what did Stone Cold Steve Austin got? Honky
Stone
Tonk
Cold
Man?
Steve Austin, the week before this, was awarded the United States title. So he got a combination of Dean Douglas and Honky Tonk Man.
Oh, that you mean Fall Brawl? When he got the belt from Steamboat.
So Steamboat couldn't wrestle. They gave him the belt. He said, "I'm leaving." Duggan came out. He tried to leave. Nick Bockwinkel's old ass ripped him back in the ring. He turned around, took a clothesline or a 3-point stance, got pinned, and then bounced around like an idiot afterwards and lost his belt. And it's the shortest reign in U.S. title history. And he did it to Hogan's boy. So two things. One, you can see why Austin wants out at this point. And then he doesn't even win the belt back on the show. He gets disqualified for throwing Duggan over the top rope. But it's clear a Hogan guy comes in, gets the belt. If Steamboat's hurt and you need a guy to replace him in a match with Steve Austin, and you're going to have him do what Duggan did, who better than Sting? And then it's Sting versus Steve Austin on the Halloween Havoc, and you can have the same stupid ending with Austin throwing him over the top rope. Instead, you bring old-ass Hacksaw Duggan in, who has a belt. Then I don't know, I think Orndorff was there longer. Orndorff has a belt. Paul Roma, I don't know if he's any relation to Hogan's circle, has a belt with Orndorff. And by the way,
Paul Roma don't like Hogan either.
Right. When Orndorff and Roma come to the ring together, it looks like Orndorff wants to be anywhere but there. Like, this is not what I want. Like when Austin said, when he got pinned up with Pillman, but then made the best of it. But,
no. I understand what you're saying, but again, with the old, I don't want to call them old timers, Tito. You know, the legends, the man of
the 80s guys.
The 80s guys understood the philosophy of Hogan being on a card. They knew that their paydays were going to get bigger. So whether they like them, they're happy where they're at. So we cannot deny that part.
Thanks for the house, brother. That's what they have.
There you go. But I agree with you with Steve Austin. That's why he left eventually next year, and then he had his issues with Bishop and stuff like that. But again, like I said, it just felt like Sting was not a priority, and you even booked him better, at least giving him a top tier semi-main event storyline by going after, becoming a U.S. champion. We just did a What If again. We gave Sting a U.S. title run that he so deservedly should have had that. But anyway, again, let's talk about certain things within this show, TW. Again, I don't want to go match by match, but I'll do my best to try to talk certain things about this. So, one of the things that was funny to me, because again, it feels like some of these matches, I think TW might agree with this, it's a WCW guy versus a Hogan guy. Everything kind of felt like that way, except the main event because Ric Flair didn't care.
And Dustin and Arn.
And Dustin and Arn didn't feel like that. But the opening felt like a WCW guy versus a Hogan guy, and that's for the television title, Reflection Nights. And that was Johnny B. Bad being the WCW television champion with a lot of untapped potential, TW. We cannot deny that. I think at this time in 94, he finally honed in on his gimmick, because like 3 years earlier, the Johnny B. Bad gimmick, Reflection Nights, in TW, I don't know if you noticed or you forgot about this. He was a lighter edition, let's say a light edition of Goldust. He was accentuating a lot of femininity, but he wasn't going full blown with it. He did not do that Goldust shit in 1995, like going homoneurotic and trying to touch men's butts and shit like that. But he kind of was a little bit effeminate. He got away from that, but he was still the bad man and all that stuff. He was the television champion, and again, TW, like you say, the TV championship, orange belt, that's the working man's belt. That's a precursor to hopefully bigger and better things. So he's defending this title against a Hogan guy, Honky Tonk Man coming in, and TW. This is 1994. The bloom is off the rose here. He is 4 years past due. He's like stale milk and all that stuff. He's like old ass milk.
A strap now to cover his titty.
That too. He's old ass milk. The milk is stale. It's smelly and all that stuff. No disrespect to Honky Tonk Man, but again, I call it like I say. I'm the most objective man in this IWC, YWC, PWC punditry. I'm not going to say he feels out of place because again, this is the TV championship. So it's a working man's belt, and everybody at least can fight for that TV title, TW. But like you said, this is a Hogan guy against the WCW guy. So to me, it felt a little bit out of place. It felt like he just got rushed into that situation, if you know what I mean, TW. So what say you about this opening match? Because this match did no favors to Johnny B. Bad because, again, Johnny B. Bad is, let's say, a man of the 90s. He's an up-and-comer. He's athletic. He's very technically sound. And then you got the 80s guy who's got to slow the shit down, slow the pace down. And if you want to talk about someone who didn't look like he wanted to be there, this match, it was like, Johnny, you ain't getting anything over on me. I'm going to make this match boring as fuck. So what say you, TW?
There's good, bad, and ugly in this match. Good, Johnny B. Bad. It's almost a dream match. Shouldn't that be bad in the good, bad, and the ugly?
Yeah,
the good is the bad guy. So you got Johnny B. Bad, who absolutely works that crowd, man. He made me once again wish I got to wrestle in front of that audience. They were all in on him. He did the little pop gun thing, teased him on both sides, and then for the first time ever, apparently grabbed the second one, so he gave both sides the pop. He got him rah shish kumbah. Whenever he did a bump, he'd go, "I'm a bad man. He ain't taking my belt." He worked the crowd. He did great. Honky Tonk Man. Yeah, he almost looked like he phoned it in. It didn't feel like vintage Honky Tonk Man, but also he didn't have Jimmy Hart, right? He's just by himself, and you're used to him having someone to interact with or whatever. The bad is the TV title. As soon as it did what it did, the ugly is the bad part, but the bad that's a little less than the ugly is the fact that this is the TV title, and it should be defended on TV. So if you're going to do what you did in this match, don't have it on the pay-per-view because they did a time limit draw. And the TV title was always TV time remaining. So when you have the opening match on a 3-hour pay-per-view and they have a draw, it's like, what the fuck? All of a sudden there's a time limit of 15 minutes when normally it's TV time remaining. So that's the ugly or the bad. The ugly is that it's clear Honky Tonk Man wasn't going to lose. He should have. And instead, they did a draw, and I believe Honky Tonk Man got caught in a small package, but time ran out. That was probably but you don't do anything for Johnny B. Bad. You make people leave feeling bad for him, not thinking, all right, he's on his way. You just feel like, oh, that poor guy got fucking jobbed.
Let me ask you this question, Tito, in your humble opinion with the wrestler side, because, again, there's been kayfabe commentaries, even from Honky Tonk Man himself, that, if something doesn't pass the smell test, if you know what I mean, TW, for Honky Tonk Man, if he doesn't feel like this,
he's not there long, is he?
No, he actually quit before Starrcade '94. He said, "Fuck it, I'm leaving."
So he's 2 months away from being gone.
Yep.
Wow.
But you understand where I'm going with this, because in kayfabe, even Honky Tonk Man even says it himself. If something doesn't pass his own personal smell test, he will go to booking and say, I'm not doing this or shit like that. So that's why I look at this match, and you're right. This is a TV title match. This should be on TBS or TNT and all that shit. I got you on that 10-minute time limit, 15-minute time limit. You do the draw here but this is a pay-per-view, TW. I can go with a TV title match on a pay-per-view, but the pay-per-view should be 30 or 30 minutes at least.
Yeah, it's a title
match.
The most
should be 30. It's
UFC, every title match is 5 rounds. The rest of the matches are 3.
Yeah, so it should be a 30-minute match. So this way it can have a build, a story, and shit like that. So that's my ugly. 15 minutes is just too short, and the fans felt cheated. Then again, like I said, it didn't do no favors for Johnny B. Bad, because again, he's Honky's a legend, and his job is supposed to get this young guy over to the next level. Do you feel like
it looks like you can't beat him?
Right, that's what it looked like to me. He didn't do him any favors. He's not passing the torch, if you will. You understand that? You agree with that assessment, or have a different
100%.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as it was a draw, I'm like, fuck, man. This started out so good. They're talking about Johnny B. Bad's new move, the victory roll at the top rope, called a bad day. And I'm like, you can catch him out of nowhere. Doesn't hit a finish. He also has that awesome move that he did that busted open Stone Cold Steve Austin's mouth that basically made Steve Austin a star after that, which is funny because that's how Becky Lynch became a star, was taking a botched move and bleeding all over the place. But, yeah, I felt bad for Johnny B. Bad because this did nothing for him. And now that you say it, man, Honky Tonk Man was just there. I don't even know if he had popped the crowd at all. It was all Johnny B. Bad working the crowd.
Like you said, no Jimmy Hart, no Peggy Sue, no nothing. It's just no pomp and circumstances. You're just remembering all the 80s glory, and he's 4 years out of date and out the pasture and all that stuff. So TW with that,
he makes so much money if he's in WCW for fucking 3 months and WWE for 2 years.
No, he was in WWE from 86 to 91. 5 years.
86 he was there?
Yeah.
Damn. Is that WrestleMania 2?
He wasn't on WrestleMania 2. He came a little bit after, but he was a good guy.
2's 85. Or no, 85's 1, 86 is 2, 87 is 3.
Mm-hmm. He came in 86. He was a good guy, and then he changed the game and with his character and all that stuff, and it was history. And then he left in 91. So with that being said, TW, before we talk about another match, we have to talk about the main event storyline. The epic trilogy. This is why 10,000 fans came to the Joe Louis Arena for, because the epic trilogy finale, TW, was Hogan against Flair. It had to be in the cage, and it was career versus career Reflection Nights. But the reason I'm talking about the main event storyline, TW, earlier than talk about the match is because they wanted to make it a point, TW, because Mr. T was the special guest referee. So, technically, the underdog is Ric Flair, right? Everybody's supposed to say Ric Flair is the underdog because Hulk Hogan's best friend is the special guest referee. But during the pay-per-view, they were doing like guerrilla journalism, TW, where they had the TMZ cameras showing Ric Flair and Mr. T at restaurants doing business, quote unquote, and all that stuff. So TW, did you like the way that WCW and Bischoff tried to like throw that curveball to the fans, at least the viewing fans of TV, knowing that maybe Hulk Hogan is coming in as the underdog and not Ric Flair?
I did, and if, as a matter of fact, something else was there's a few different camera angles in some of the matches where you see those blue pads on the floor, and you almost feel like it's old WWE footage when you're watching it until it pans out and you see the WCW logos everywhere. But it felt WWE. It felt like 80s WWE, which probably isn't so good in 90s WCW, but absolutely. And I love that Mr. T and Flair did not pay any attention to a camera at all. I know it was a still photo, but they weren't even looking that way. It looked like they legit were just leaving and got caught leaving together.
Yeah,
Out of Michael Jordan's restaurant.
It was like Donnie Brasco shit. The FBI was was taking film of the mafia, and then you saw what was going on. So with that being said, TW, let's talk about the WCW tag team title match, because again, it feels to me again Hulk Hogan's team against WCW's team. And WCW's team at that time as the tag team champions was Stars and Stripes. Pick up that mask, TW. I'm giving you that permission. Where's your mask? the Patriot, and Marcus Alexander Bagwell were the WCW Tag Team Champions coming into this match against Pretty Wonderful. And again, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff and Pretty Paul Roma TW. I had no problem with this tag team. And again, Bischoff wanted to make it plain as day that their tag team division was deep, had a lot of tag teams. You got the Harlem Heat, got the Nasty Boys, and then you got these two tag teams, respectively, TW. But the funny thing that I feel like with Stars and Stripes is a different scenario, TW, and you probably didn't notice this, but I feel like they got the Sting treatment worse. And the reason I'm explaining this is because they were America's team. They were the ones that the fans would be chanting USA, USA. They wanted that. But the problem is there's somebody already now there, one of Hulk Hogan's main dudes, and that's Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So almost it was like Marcus Alexander Bagwell actually saw the future. He's like, yo, man, I can't be with you. You're throwing me down. You're drawing me down, man. I can't be this U.S. reject. They became the U.S. Express. Danny Spivey and Mike Rotundo. They weren't the U.S. Express of Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo and all that stuff. TW.
Didn't Spivey and Rotundo? Weren't they called the American Express? They weren't called the U.S. Express.
No, they were the U.S. Express.
They were.
I'm just saying they felt like the carbon copy of U.S. They turned it to the Danny Spivey U.S. Express because of Hacksaw Jim Duggan coming in. They weren't America's team anymore. It just felt like
they should have put him with them.
Could have been America's team.
Here's what I saw.
What did you see?
I saw Team Global Wrestling Federation. That's what I saw, and I was happy to see it. And I was happy that they had matching tights, and they were crisscross or make a jump. One had a red and white left leg. The other one had a Stars and Stripes red left leg, and then reverse for the other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then Orndorff and Roma, I know for certain because I'm staring at an action figure of them right. Where are you at? Paul Orndorff, there is up there. Why can't he wear his red and silver jacket to the ring with Paul Roma when he's wearing his red and silver jacket? He had to wear black and gold. Then they got in the ring, but they matched. They had the same tights, the same boots, the same knee pads. So they did look like a team in the end. But I disagree with you. I mean, I don't know if you agree with Bischoff, but I disagree with Bischoff. It isn't the best tag team division because other than Harlem Heat and the Nasty Boys, everybody is two singles guys thrown together because that's what Buff Bagwell and Patriot were. And as a matter of fact, Buff Bagwell has the distinct honor of 2 years in a row losing the World Tag Team titles with a different person at Halloween Havoc after just winning them. He lost it with Flash Funk.
I totally hear you. I'm just saying that in comparison to WWF's tag team division 94, their tag team division is more tolerable in my humble opinion. Quebecers and the young guns and bullshit like that. You got this. At least I can tolerate their tag team division more than I can tolerate the WWF tag team. No, the young guns. Billy Gunn and Bart Gunn.
They weren't
the smoking guns.
Smoking guns. But you also had the Allied Powers, bitch. You had Luger and Bulldog.
Two single guys put together to mean nothing.
With matching gear. With matching gear.
But you knew they weren't going nowhere. Again, that's why I'm saying that. You're right.
Owen and Yokozuna.
That team was promising, but again, neither here nor there. We're not comparing. We're not comparing. Organizations right now. We're talking about the WCW pay-per-view and all that stuff. So, and then we got new tag team champions and Pretty Wonderful. TW, Pretty Wonderful again. Before the NWO stuff and before Paul Orndorff's neck injuries really took its toll on him the next following year. Do you think they had a chance? Not in the Hollywood Blonde sense like we did that episode of Untapped Potential, but could you see them as a credible champion, heel champion, like, doing shortcuts and maybe taking disqualifications and countouts and extending a long title run? Or you just said they're not the tag team for me?
They actually touch on it in the match. I don't even know if it was Bobby Heenan that said it, but it was one of them that said it. There was a 3-man booth, right? It was Bishop or...
No, it was Shivani and Heenan.
But who was the third guy? Gene Okerlund at the opening?
Gene Okerlund is doing the interviewing out.
Yeah. So they were pointing out how Patriot and Bagwell were doing tag team moves. Mm-hmm. Orndorff and Roma did not. It just looked like two singles guys doing singles moves. Even the finish was Paul Roma basically stole the show from everybody because he's basically John Morrison before John Morrison was born, and he just jumps on the top rope, does the craziest fist off the top rope I've ever seen. It almost looked like a Superman punch, and then a fist, and then he landed on his stomach, and then the finish was just an absolutely beautiful elbow off the top rope. And what I like about it is that's the kind of stuff. There's one match you probably don't want to talk about, but to me, it had the best finish of all the matches combined. That match, but Orndorff rolling over and pinning Bagwell while he sold his stomach because of the elbow off the top rope. They didn't cheat, kind of cheated to win, but not really. They just did what tag team wrestlers do. And they blamed it on the Patriot because the Patriot wouldn't get out of the ring and gave them the chance to double team Bagwell. So it was a good finish. I did not like that they just won the belts out of nowhere and then lose them right back. And it felt like they were going to do that with Austin and Duggan, but obviously they didn't. But I did like the
remember,
finish.
the Bischoff mantra is anything and anything can happen. Everything.
Right, but when
and
you do the exact same thing in two different title matches, it's not good. And I think someone figured that out and go, we can't have Austin win it. Just have him throw him over the top rope. That's probably what happened.
Well,
Because otherwise, it was AEW all over again. Everything in the one match happens again 2 matches later.
Now, TW, we can kind of abbreviate this because this was the worst match of the night. This was the worst feud of 1994. Probably Dave Meltzer.
Hold on. Before you go there. This match we're talking about first, 2 out of 4 are dead. So Roma and Bagwell have to have a captain's match to settle this feud because it's 1-1. They got to have a captain's match.
My thoughts and prayers like that, man. The gatekeeper is back for the new fall season. You got to keep on telling y'all who is dead.
Wait, there's more. Keep going.
I know there is. But anyway, the next one is the worst feud of 1994. But this is a Hulk Hogan influence feud, if you will, Reflect Nights. And the Sullivan brothers had to implode. I didn't give a 2 shits about it in 94, and I still don't give 2 shits about it in 2025 Reflection Nights. Dave Sullivan against Kevin Sullivan. And the reason I call it a Hulk Hogan influence feud, TW, is because, Hulk Hogan needs to have this one special ed type of wrestler. He had it with Hillbilly Jim. He had it with Tugboat. He has to have the one big dude to have empathy for. And Dave Sullivan said, fuck it. If I'm going to run with Hogan,
at least be nice and say it was Uncle Elmer, not Hillbilly Jim.
Okay, Uncle Elmer and Cousin Luke, too. They all fit the mold. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. You got to have these special ed wrestlers and shit like that to feel empathy.
Man-childs.
Good word. Man-child and all that stuff. Dave Sullivan said, you want me to be a man-child? You want me to be the next Hillbilly Jim Hogan? I got you. Let's do something. I don't mind running with Hulk Hogan. And he gave him that dumb I want to be a Hulkamaniac theme song and shit like that. But again, weeks on Saturday Night TW, I'll give you the logistics, was Kevin Sullivan could not fathom that he loves Hulk Hogan. He kept slapping the shit out of him, and it didn't work. And Dave Sullivan said, he was hulking up and just wanted to fuck up his big brother and all that stuff. So this lasted for, I think, 6 minutes tops. So again, this wasn't a 5-star classic, but this is the worst feud in 94. But again, this is a Hulk Hogan influence.
I don't even remember how it ended.
I think it was Dave Sullivan won, but it was 5 minutes quick and all that shit.
It was like a quick roll up or something, or is that that's Dustin?
No, it was just mindless punching and kicking. Know how.
And he hulked up. The crowd did not give a fuck.
Yeah, did not give 2 shits about it. So what say you, TW, about the worst feud of 1994? Oh, Dave Sullivan won by countout. I think they were fighting outside
Kevin
the ring.
Kevin didn't beat the count. Kevin beat the fuck out of him the whole match and then didn't get back in the ring. I remember now. Anything involving Kevin Sullivan is usually the drizzling shits for me. So I'm not surprised by this. Dave Sullivan, they tried to give him the rub, whatever. I don't think it worked. I don't think he was there long. But one thing I did notice is, I never noticed it before, and I'll bet you when he was younger, he was probably in better shape. Kevin Sullivan is actually a good-looking dude. When they showed him and he winked or whatever and he was doing this stuff, I'm like, wow, for whatever reason, I always thought the dude was ugly, like Dave Sullivan. He's just not handsome, right? But I was like, if his hair wasn't thinning and he didn't have the beer belly, he probably was a closer in his youth.
Well, he did snatch Robin Green, or woman, and all that stuff. So
Robin, Nancy Benoit. We can say her name.
Yeah,
she's not the bad guy.
I know she's not. I'm just saying. But again, this is the worst feud of '94. Had no purpose.
The second worst is coming up.
Well, are we talking about Dustin Rhodes and Arn Anderson?
That's one too, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. But we can talk about that for a quick. And again, this is technically WCW versus WCW. This has no Hulk Hogan influence, in my humble opinion. TW, right. Maybe you might.
Other than Hogan took him away from Kevin.
Yeah. No. Well, I'll say this: Hulk Hogan influence, if you will, TW, and you'll follow me here. Even though Dusty Rhodes is still involved with WCW behind the scenes, maybe booking committee and executive producing and all that stuff with TBS and shit like that. Before Hogan came in, Dustin Rhodes was on a rocket ship because he was the U.S. champion, the TV champion, tag team champion. He was a rung below Sting.
He was with Barry Windham, right?
Yeah, he was with Barry Windham as a tag team champion and a tag team champion with Ricky Steamboat. But that's neither here nor there. But you get where I'm going with. He got the rocket ship push. But then Hogan comes, and then Dustin Rhodes doesn't feel as important, TW, again. And this match doesn't feel as important. And the funny thing, Reflection Nights and TW might not notice this, but this match happened after War Games. War Games is the payoff, the ultimate payoff where he won War Games and all that shit. So this feels like maybe the dessert. This is a dessert match for Dustin Rhodes to get more extra revenge on
so
Arn
War
Anderson.
Games was Dustin versus Arn, or is that where Arn turned on Dustin?
No, Dustin and Dusty's team against Colonel Robert Parker's army, and Arn Anderson was part of it.
Right. Jeez, man. Arn Anderson's been managed by every manager in the history of WCW and NWA.
But at least he's the greatest television champion. So what's the
second best? Yep, for sure.
So Dustin Rhodes wins this match, even though it doesn't really mean anything because
So just real quick, because you're saying Dustin, also pay attention to Arn, because he doesn't mean shit either, right? First of all, he's in Robert Parker's fucking oddities thing.
No. Arn Anderson is like what you always say, a good hand.
Arn Anderson is the very first dude who comes out and beats up Hulk Hogan with the pole in Idaho. That's Arn Anderson. That is not the guy who ends up being unmasked. It's Arn. It's obvious. Everything about it is Arn. And so Arn, I feel like this is a nothing burger match at a nothing burger part of the show. It's sandwiched between what you call the worst feud of 1994, and then it's right before the next match, which is also a shitty feud. He just remember the term that you say about WWE guys are lost in the shuffle. That's what Arn is right here.
He just has no purpose because again he's with Robert Parker, and
he loses.
Yeah, he loses again. He's like you say, a serviceable hand. He adapts to every situation. He does what he's told. Yep. He's having fun. He's getting paid. So again, he knows that when he's needed for the main event.
What I did like about it though was Arn was supposedly helping Dustin out, and then 20 years later, Arn is helping Cody out in AEW.
Yeah, and 20 years later, he does this, the Glock promo. That's all people remember him for right now in today's Gen Z world. But anyway,
when did you do the Glock? Was that AEW?
Yeah, on Dynamite. Did the Glock promo to Cody's face. Just type that. Just Google Arn's Glock promo AEW. You'll see it. So am I correct when you're saying that the worst feud is the U.S. title match? Is that the worst feud?
No, I didn't know that was next.
Oh, okay.
You know which one I'm talking about.
Oh, the other tag team match.
Nope, not a tag team.
What are you talking about? Oh, the Guardian and Big Van Vader.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I knew somewhere was something. So you know what? Again, TW, you kind of hashed on it a little bit, but let's put a bow on it. The U.S. title match between Hacksaw Jim Duggan, a Hulk Hogan guy, against Stunning Steve Austin. You know, he's trying to build
up. Not a Hulk Hogan guy.
Definitely not a Hulk Hogan guy, and definitely not a Bischoff guy and all that stuff, because next year he would be fired via FedEx and all that stuff. And then the era, well, the Ringmaster first was born, and then Stone Cold comes after that. So, TW, I'll go back to Fall Brawl for a second because they kind of harped on this because that was the storyline. Because again, I was going to say Stone Cold, but Steve Austin wasn't quote unquote ready for his U.S. title match because again, he won it by forfeit, and he felt he had every right to say, I can walk. I was contractually obligated to fight Steamboat, and he wasn't ready. I should go home. And he should have. He should have had his lawyers and all that stuff. But again, neither here nor there. Duggan comes out of nowhere and steals the U.S. belt from him. And now, no disrespect to Duggan, TW, but, you know, I think you're right. I think a lot of people are right in this sense. Because, again, like you say, with the Intercontinental Championship, you're one rung away from the WWE title. But that also means you're one rung away from being given the ball, given the torch, given the responsibility to sell at the arenas and all that stuff. I always felt that the United States title, but I always said, you know, at least everybody, it was so circular because you go from World Heavyweight title to US title, the TV title. It was all circular. It didn't feel like you say, it's not a rung.
It wasn't necessarily upstairs. It was an elevator, not a staircase.
Yeah, it didn't elevate. This title should have elevated.
Elevator, not a ladder.
Certain people who won the U.S. title, like Goldberg, elevated to the world title, and that made the title feel important. But Jim Duggan, again, he was maybe a Mid-Atlantic champion, TW with a Mid-South. To be fair, late 90s, early 2000s, the same fate would be bestowed upon the IC title. And I think I figured out the difference between WCW and WWF for me. When I seen Orndorff win the tag team title for the second time, I know he was TV champ. I think he was U.S. champ, but he probably wasn't. But this guy won 3 belts or 3 title reigns in very short order, yet was in WWE forever and never won a title. Same can be said for Paul Roma. Same can be said for Dustin Rhodes, which I think he was Intercontinental champion as Goldust. But you got all these guys who, Rick Rude, all these guys who maybe were IC champion, Junkyard Dog, never won anything, but they go to WCW and they just get belts, all of them. They just get belts by the pound. And I'm like, but I figured it out. It's 2 things. One, you feel that cheapens it, that you go to WCW win
no,
all these belts?
I think it's what makes it different. Like everyone always said the difference was that WWE was a circus and WCW was sport. I say bullshit to that because Johnny B. Bad is not gonna there's not gonna be a guy in the NFL on the field looking like Johnny B. Bad. I think they were all entertained.
Well, today's NFL, yes. No, I'm just
right. Well, you know what I mean. That no one's gonna come out there, whatever. But I just think WWE was better at it. They both were being entertainment, but one just did it better, but larger than life, all that. But in fairness to the WWF,
to
be fair, they only had 2 belts, and the tag team belts were always. They didn't put 2 singles guys together to win tag belts. Back in WWF, you were a tag team, you won a tag team title, that was your ceiling, or you didn't win shit like the Killer Bees or the Young Stallions or guys like that, right? And then for whatever reason, finally, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, deservedly so, both busted through that tag team, you know, stigma and won the IC title and won the world title. But the huge difference between WWE and WCW or NWA is even though they had that 1 extra belt, that TV title, and we could talk about the Western states and the fucking Mid-Atlantic and all that bullshit. That doesn't matter. We only really talk about 3 titles in WCW, World, US, TV. That's it. We don't even really talk about the Cruiserweight title that much. But those 3 belts, the big difference, Hogan had the belt for fucking 4 years. So there's 1 champion. There's no Flair at least dropped it once a year at least to somebody. So you now have 5 champions, right? Versus Hogan in the same time. So there's more reigns to go around. And then the world title and the TV title, they were traded like hot potatoes. They didn't hold them for a year like Gunther. They didn't hold them for 9 months like Cesaro or whatever. They won it and they would lose it the next week. There was a lot of which I think lended itself to the sport aspect. Like the best of 7 between the Celtics and the Lakers, there was never sweeps. They beat each other and then they'd lose the next time and they'd win. That's what I think WCW did better than WWE. WWE, a guy got a belt and I was like, all right, well, we're not going to have a new champion for long. The only thing they did that was in hindsight transparent is if Hogan was the champ, a heel was the IC champ. If a heel was the world champ.
That whole logic you're saying all changed into 2000 with WWE because it didn't.
Yes.
That shit didn't matter anymore.
That's what I'm saying. Once you got to 2, and they added belts because they took the WCW belts in there. So now there's more titles to go around. But just think of all the 80s guys that never, ever had a title reign. Ever.
Duggan didn't. At least in WWE. In WWE, he was just the king of the ring.
I'm talking guys like Orndorff, John Studd, King Kong Bundy.
What do you mean Duggan wasn't there long? He was there from 87 to 93. That's 6 years.
He was the king of the ring.
That's it.
That's it. But anyway, twice. He won the Royal Rumble, too. But my point is, you got guys that are absolute legends. Orndorff is a fucking legend. 0 titles. And then it dawned on me when they were doing the opening, Bobby Heenan managed 1 million guys, never beat Hulk Hogan. And then I realized, yes, he did manage a world champion. Ric Flair. He might have been called his advisor or whatever the hell he was called, but they were together. When he was world champion, Bobby Heenan was with Ric Flair. And that's the same thing. Heenan doesn't even get to manage champions. Who do you get? The Intercontinental Champion with Perfect? That's his only title? Rude. And Jimmy Hart got tag team titles by the pound. But you got WCW.
So what does that got to do with Duggan and Austin?
I'm saying when you go to WCW, we have a shorter list of people who didn't have a title reign, right? Everyone won a title there. I was at one point going,
I'm just saying Duggan just feels out of place being the U.S. champion because again, to me,
but by this time, yes. But if you just think back, U.S. title 80s, beginning in the 90s. Guys like Magnum TA were going to be world champion without the accident. Luger, world champion after the U.S. title. Ric Flair was a U.S. champion, then went on to the world title. Piper, if he would have stuck around, probably would have won a world title after the U.S. title. Obviously, Goldberg.
Don't forget
Wyndham, Sting, Luger, all these guys. DDP, I don't know if he ever won the U.S. title. But those guys, they did it right. They did the slow build. They were on the up climb the whole time and then won the world title. And yeah, they ended up going backwards and winning the TV title and the US title and the tag title. And Sting got straddled with the 6-man title with the Road Warriors a couple times. It's just, that's, I think, the different mentality. WWE mentality is the guy makes the belt doesn't make the guy. WCW, NWA mentality, the belt makes the guy. They just had this you have to have a belt on this guy or he's not going to reach his potential or whatever the case may be. And there's modern day fans that are the same way, bitching that this guy doesn't have the world title. It's like, well, look, dude, unless you change hands every week, all 72 guys you say should have the world title can't have the world title. That's what's the beauty of it is it's not supposed to be for everybody. It's supposed to be for the few, the proud, and the brave, damn it.
But you know what? Now, in today's day and age, every Mark Tar thinks that 72 people should be the world heavyweight champion right now. So that's the problem with.
I'm going to give AEW a compliment.
Oh Lord, you drunk?
They do it right with the world title. No matter how much we hate that fucking Ambrose had the title for 18 years, and the guy that finally beat him is the guy who already had it. So they have a very select few guys that have been world champion. And guess who's not one of them? Guess who still hasn't been a world champion? Cesaro. He still hasn't because he still sucks on the microphone. You know who else is never going to be a world champion? Ricochet, because he still sucks on a microphone. He's not going to, I don't know how the hell Hangman Page made it through that fucking handicap, but he got, because he's their homegrown guy. But they have a select few, they're not even 10 world champions, are there?
I haven't done the count, but it's
Jericho, Omega.
Ambrose.
Jericho and Omega first, right? And then Ambrose.
No, and then
Hangman.
Hangman.
Then Ambrose. Swerve had it for 5 minutes.
Swerve.
Back
Punk.
to Ambrose. Punk.
I forget.
And
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. This is
Daniel Bryan. So they're close to 10. With 10 guys in 5 years, that's good. That's 2 years.
And MJF. Good. We can't forget MJF.
Oh, yeah,
but anyway,
he's a fucking dude. Talk about fucking tapped potential.
Again, we talk about WC. We talk about.
He's done. He's
we
over.
talk about. So to put a bow on it, Duggan and Austin wasn't a classic, I guess.
No,
because you're not even talking. We haven't even talked about moves.
It was a waste. Here's one thing I will say: Duggan looked good when he came out. I expected old man, fucking out of shape gym shorts Duggan, because that's what I remember from WCW. That's when he started wearing them fucking ball shorts for gym class in the 70s to wrestle. But he came out looking like the old Duggan, not the old Duggan, the classic Duggan. And but got his ass whooped by Austin and got beat by getting thrown over the top rope and wins by disqualification. It was just it wasn't good. Wasn't good for anybody.
Okay, and now TW's favorite match of the night, which he actually is trying to use reverse psychology, is Vader versus the Guardian Angel, aka Big Bubba Rogers.
Let me tell you about this match. Best finish of the night. Best finish of the night.
Let's get the logistics out of the way, because again, Big Boss Man, a Hogan guy, but he came before Hogan, before that logistics stuff, TW. But Vince McMahon was a dick. Well, he had every right to be a dick because again, he owned and trademarked the big boss man IP and trade and shit like that. Right. So he was stuck because again, everything except Big Bubba Rogers, that character belongs to him, right?
Right.
But he was trying to be a cop and it just didn't work. So the Guardian Angel was the stupidest one because it was just, I remember those vignettes of him and Curtis Slewa and shit like that was just made no sense. Angel. But anyway, the Guardian Angel and all that shit. But again, long story short, Reflectionites, Vader, hindsight is 2020, TW. We know that Vader would eventually be challenging Hulk Hogan in 1995, but we're not talking about 1995 here. But Vader needed a feeder. So I guess Bischoff felt like, okay, I'll beat one of Hulk Hogan's hardest competitors in the 80s. See where it goes, TW? It's still influenced. Like, if you remember Hulk Hogan having trouble with the big boss man and Vader kind of like, I don't want to call it a squash match, but he handled one of Hogan's biggest adversaries in the 80s very easily. So that's the way I'm looking at it. What say you? I know you wasn't a fan of this feud.
I disagree. They did the finish is so well done because Boss Man, he kept kicking out. First of all, he kicked out of Vader's finish.
Mm-hmm.
Second time, he put his knees up and Vader, whatever. Then he gave him a spine buster that they called a sidewalk slam, gave him another one, and then finally hit him with his finish. But instead of pinning him, went after Harley Race. And when he did that, chased him around, and it looked like the typical he slides in and Vader drops the elbow on him. But instead, Vader let him suplex Harley Race into the ring, and then he fucking did a Vader bomb and pinned him and hooked his arm. It was very well done. It looked like Bossman could have won if he didn't fuck around and get distracted. But right after the finish, right after the 3 count, all 3 wrestlers and the referee died. All of them. They're all dead.
Jesus Christ. Gatekeeper TW on the roll.
All 2 wrestlers, manager, and referee. They're all dead.
You talking about the tag team match?
No.
Oh.
Vader, Bossman, Harley, and Pee Wee Anderson are all dead. They're having that match right now because we're talking about it. They're on the other side having it.
Why? I'm just
also dead. Gene Okerlund and Bobby Heenan.
Yes. Oh, Jesus Christ. You're gonna make me depressed.
They might be able to redo this card tonight in heaven.
They probably are. But anyway, neither here nor there. So before they get to the main event, let's put a bow on the next match because I really want to just harp on the main event because that's what we came to talk about. Again, just like Dustin and Arn, they fought at War Games. That felt like a filler match just for more revenge. The Nasty Boys against Rob Parker's guys of, Bunkhouse Buck and Terry Funk just didn't feel like anything to me, TW. So it was just another War Games filler match just for more revenge.
That match and Arn and Dustin makes it all the more perplexing that Sting didn't have a match. You threw this fucking retread from the last pay-per-view out there. At the very least, make it a 6-man. Make it different, And the one thing I'll say about at least Terry Funk, because I'm kind of biased on it.
Also dead.
Yes, he is. God bless his soul. But Terry Funk during 1994, he was wrestling everywhere. He was in ECW. He was doing a lot of dates. He put a lot on his body, and you didn't even notice this. I'm talking about ECW. ECW. He was doing shit with fire. He was going to Japan and having match and wars with Cactus Jacks, with exploding death matches over there in Japan. He was wrestling, like that WWE schedule. What'd you say that back in the 90s you wrestle 5 days and are off 2 days or something like that?
Yeah. D'Lo told me they leave SmackDown Tuesday night, they're home Wednesday, Thursday, and back on a plane Friday morning.
That's what Terry Funk was doing.
And some of them drove. They didn't even fly; they drove.
That's what Terry Funk to me was doing in 1994. He was doing WCW.
And even more, I told you about the Sunday and the Saturdays. They would do a Saturday at 1 p.m. in Toledo. As soon as they got done wrestling, drive up and do 7 p.m. at Joe Louis Arena in Detroit.
He did Toledo at 1 p.m. and then he took a flight to Japan to do an exploding death match the next day. That's what he was doing. But he was got to give respect to Terry Funk in the 90s because he was wrestling everywhere, getting paid. Well, I don't know, a hot dog and a handshake, but at least the WCW paycheck was a lot better. So with that being said, again, it was a War Games feeder match, Reflection Night, so we don't really have to talk about that shit. I'm not really talking about
I
that
think the
match.
Nasty Boys won by smashing a pumpkin over their head.
Did it really matter? It don't matter. But
I don't know. I started waning. I didn't fall asleep, but I started doing other shit.
We didn't care. We know that. But anyway, it's all about the. Well, do you want to talk about the Muhammad Ali presentation? Well, we kind of talked about all that shit. So anyway,
he's also dead.
Yes, he is. Let's go into the main event because that's what 10,000 Detroit Reflectionites want to talk about at the Joe Louis Arena. It was in the cage, career versus career, and also for the WCW Heavyweight Championship. This was the epic trilogy to the feud of the year of 1994, subjectively to some wrestling fans' eyes, as Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair main evented again at Halloween Havoc TW. This was the third match, the epic trilogy. This ain't like Steamboat and Flair to me, but, you know, I'll say this, Reflectionites and TW, and because of this match, I think this should, and again, this goes back into the Sting thing, maybe for Halloween Havoc TW, it should have been Hogan and Sting versus Flair and somebody else, because then you do this epic cage match at Starrcade. This is the way you're supposed to do it and elongate a storyline. And you have your, you know, I know TW doesn't think that Starrcade is WrestleMania worthy with saying that, but Starrcade is WCW's WrestleMania.
Why do you think I don't think so?
I'm just saying you save Hogan and Flair for Starrcade 94, not Hogan and the Booty Man, not Hogan and Brother Brutai, but I understand where they're going with this. But to finish off the epic trilogy here, career versus career for the title and all that stuff, Mr. T is the referee and all this shit. Let's just talk about the match first because the ending, of course, people can see on my background, I already spoiled the ending. But TW, again, this is what got WCW into the fold, if you will. They were not on par with WWE just yet, but at least they were knocking on the doors of Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon had to pay attention because two icons of the 80s are selling out the Joe Louis Arena in a cage. I don't know about the buy rates, TW, but I was interested in wanting to see a cage match. And again, the career versus career was kind of hokey because we already know that wrestlers are not retiring. They eventually come back in somehow, some way, and all that shit.
Sometimes a week later.
That too. But anyway, what's the TW about this main event here?
Flair let me down. Flair's supposed to be the best of the best. Oh, and I want to say something about Vader real quick. We always talk about Flair having the same match with everybody, right? The run to the corner, flip, come over, body slammed off the top rope, chop, 3 steps forward, fall. Doesn't matter who he's wrestling. Press slam by Sting or Luger. If he's wrestling someone small, it's a victory roll. Vader has the same match with everybody, including Boss Man, who did the same way.
Every wrestler has their spot.
No.
You have your spots too, right?
This is the same. Ron Simmons won it by catching Vader and power slamming him. I saw Boss Man do it. I'm like, when's Boss Man ever done a fucking power slam before? Catches Vader off the second rope, power slams him. Sting did it. Johnny B. Bad did it. Bulldog did it. All these guys that wrestled Vader did that same spot, but I digress. Flair's supposed to be the best of the best. He's supposed to be the best to ever do it. He's not. It's Brett and it's Sean. He's at the top of the cage, and Hogan is ramming his head on the top of the cage. And there's times when Hogan isn't even moving and Flair is just ramming his own head into the cage. And Hogan is trying to catch up with him. And all I thought is, wow. And also Vader slid over in the ring so Boss Man could hit a headbutt on the top rope. And he didn't even need to do it because the Boss Man would have hit it anyway. And the camera's right on him. So their cameraman should have been fired after this show between the Flair headbutting the cage on his own. That should have been shown Sherry's ass or something.
Not everybody is under the Kevin Dunn, camera school
clearly
certification or whatever you
Flair
want to
just
call it.
let me down, and I'm going to let you talk about the rest of this match because it's a whole lot of nothing for me. But I want to point something out at the end of this that I've been waiting to point out, so I didn't ruin it all. That coincides with Sting and how you feel about Sting. But go ahead.
Well, for me, TW, again, you added so much with Sensational Sherry. You added so much with Mr. T and all that stuff, and supposedly like T goes down, and then after all, against all the odds, Reflectionites, Hulk Hogan comes out on top, and supposedly Ric Flair is forced to retire. So, you lose that element. But while Hulk Hogan is doing the celebrating and people are starting to leave the arena, certain people stayed because they want to see Hulk Hogan pose. But then, because for the last couple of months or the last couple of weeks, just like TW said, there was a masked man. It wasn't the Black Scorpion, but he had the
Same gear.
He had the gear of the Black Scorpion, but he had the let's say the body tones of Arn Anderson doing a lot of shit to Hulk Hogan's leg and shit like that. But neither here nor there. So he comes in and Hogan is ready for the masked man. And you know
that's another botch. He stands there for 20 minutes with the fucking rod and doesn't hit him.
The problem I have with this mask, TW, is once, you know, when you're, let's say you're 7 years old, you can't tell the facial features of somebody. But when you're at my age and your age, TW, you're already in the business. If you watch this match live, you'll be like, that's Beefcake. I'm like, I looked at it, once I saw the mask, I'm like, that's Beefcake. I'm not like, oh shit, that's Beefcake. I'm like, why is Beefcake doing this? I wanted it to be Arn. It made all the sense in the world to me. And because of what he did in Clash of the Champions, the way he looked at, you know, when he was the masked man in Clash of the Champions, you couldn't hide the Arn body type and his mannerisms, all that shit. So they pulled a swerve on us, Martards and all that shit. But I was like, what? And, you know, God bless Bobby Heenan. He tried to save this shit. That man butchered a friendship. That man butchered a friendship. God bless Tony Schiavone trying to amp this up like this is the biggest heel turn. And you understand this, Reflectionites. I will refuse to do a Pro Wrestling Spotlight Greatest Heel Turns edition of Brother Brudai betraying Hulk Hogan because I don't even think that's a great heel turn. That's a pointless heel turn. But again, neither here nor there. But that is the moment of Hogan saying, oh shit, my brother has betrayed me. And then the birth of a new story comes to fruition, Reflectionites. The faces of fear come into play. And now Kevin Sullivan is in the main event scene. And a new Hogan guy comes into the fold. You can't call him Earthquake because Vince McMahon owns that IP trademark. So you had to go with another weather anomaly, and that's an Avalanche. Earthquake becomes Avalanche, and the faces of fear take control of Hogan. But then the man called Sting in a suit and tie, well, a bow tie, if you will, Reflectionites, comes and saves the day and becomes Hogan's number 2 lackey. Did I miss anything, TW?
So you've been saying all night how Sting didn't feel like a priority. Sting didn't feel like this. Mm-hmm. The second Ric Flair lost, they may as well have told him to get the fuck out of their ring and swept him out of there. No him, no Arn, no nobody, no Sherry. They are just gone like they were never there. I'm sitting there waiting for Flair and Arn to attack him with Beefcake, and instead Kevin Sullivan, Earthquake, and who was the third guy?
Avalanche, like I said, Earthquake.
I said Earthquake. There was another guy. I thought there was a couple guys that went in there with Earthquake.
It was the face. It was, you're thinking of the Dungeon of Doom, but this was before.
And they all get in there, and it's like Ric Flair who, and it made me have a question for you because I always think Flair went back after '92 and didn't come back until like 04 for Evolution or whatever the fuck they were called, Triple H and Flair. But did he come back before and then go back to WCW again?
You mean when he left WWE in '93 and then? No, he was in WCW.
He left in '93, went to WCW, and didn't come back until 2003 or 4.
2002.
Okay, he did come back in 02.
Mm-hmm.
Right after, well, WCW went under in 01, right?
Mm-hmm. He came back in late 01 into 2002.
And Hogan and Nash and Hall came in 02.
Yes.
Yeah. So Flair, because this is the beginning of the end for Flair in WCW, where they just broke him. Remember, like.
No, well, they were starting to break him because, again,
as I said, the beginning. This was the beginning of the end. They just broke him, man, and it's in his book. It's all there. But he is such an afterthought in this, and all I think is, why Sullivan, Earthquake, and Beefcake, and not Arn, Flair, and fuck, man. Call Tully up and fucking have Beefcake as the 4 horsemen. Everyone else got a crack at the horsemen. Why not Beefcake? It was just so get the fuck out of here, Rick, is what it felt like to me. And then Sting, you want a piece? Come here, carry Hogan's bags.
Did you want to do a fucking like oh shit moment, TW, with the masked man? You know who should have been the masked man?
Macho.
Sting. No, Sting.
Yeah. Sting.
Because then all that's you could. the biggest swerve, right? I don't think Reflectionites would have liked Sting being in that kind of like, you couldn't.
With Sullivan and fucking
Yeah,
Earthquake.
well, Sting would have put over. Sting would have legitimized this shit better than Beefcake.
But those were always his enemies.
No, but
Dungeon of Doom.
I'm just saying, like the whole night, Sting is with Muhammad Ali. Sting is with the country music star. Sting is like, being Hulk Hogan's, cheerleader, but in the crowd and all that shit. But then he just goes in the back, puts on the mask, and makes sure it's like a mask that you don't see the facial features. You have that one that covers everything, almost like the Patriot mask, because you can't really tell it's Del Wilkes unless you really like know it, like you're a real Mark Tarr. But anyway, yeah. But you get where I'm going with a mask that you cannot see the facial features. If that was Sting, I would have been like, "Holy shit, they did! I can't believe they did that shit." Because then you could have went to Hogan and Sting Starrcade '94, and I would have been like, "Oh shit, you want to go that way? Wow!" But again, Hogan's priorities. Hogan takes care of his boys, Reflectionites, so he had to take care of Beefcake. Beefcake never got that main event slot in WWE. He always got the mid card. So Hogan just said, you're not going to give me a wife to fuck. We're not going to do the orgy. So I'll give you Starrcade '94. And that's where the Butcher was born, TW. So, you said that something in this match you hated. Or did you already say that? You just said that you hated Ric Flair, like, with that one spot. Or did you feel like Flair should have carried the match better? Should there have been more blood or something like that? Should have been like the 80s kind of cage matches where both of them were bleeding? Because Hogan refuses to bleed sometimes.
Right. Well, no, it wasn't that. We all know they dropped the ball when they didn't have Hogan versus Flair on a WrestleMania. So anything WCW did, including, like you said, this being at fucking Halloween Havoc and not Starrcade or at the very least the Great American Bash, which I think it was at. But
no,
it's just, that's garbage. But that's like the fucking WCW International fucking Championship of pay-per-views. But what it feels like is, this is how I would feel if I was Ric Flair. You're the fucking Detroit Red Wings, and you lose game fucking 6 to the Pittsburgh Steelers and have to watch them celebrate in your fucking building.
Penguins. You said Steelers, but Penguins.
Oh, yeah, whatever. I hate them too. But the fucking Pittsburgh Penguins celebrate their cup victory on the fucking Joe Louis Arena ice while the Red Wings have to sit there and fucking wait to shake their hands. That's what it feels like Ric Flair's feeling. Like, they don't even show this fucking guy leave to go to the back. It's like he's laying on the ground, then Beefcake comes in, then you just never see Flair or hear about Flair again. It's just so... You make it out like it's the match of a fucking lifetime, the two greatest to ever do it, and then the fucking end. Because even Arn beat the shit out of Dustin after he lost, right? Flair just loses and gets the fuck out of Dodge. And now the new fucking top fucking group is the fucking Kevin Sullivan oddities of fucking circus clowns.
The faces appear. It's logistics. Get it right.
It's terrible, dude. It's just they did Flair dirty, is what they did. They did Sting dirty, but they did Flair dirtier, in my opinion.
So with that being said, Reflectionites, there's really nothing left to talk about. Let's put a bow on this TW.
A lot of dead guys.
Almost
30. It was 31 years ago, right now.
Yeah. So TW, I'm going to give it a grade of a C. And that C is more for Eric Bischoff trying to, like I said, legitimize WCW, trying to be on par with WWF and what Vince McMahon already accomplished. You understand where Bischoff is going with this. You understand that Bischoff wants to latch on to the Hulk Hogan money train, which he thinks still has some legs and all that stuff, but it doesn't have the legs that he thinks. Hulkamania was dying in '94. He didn't see it. That's why they had to turn him heel in '96. Then he rode that Hulk Hogan money train to a different level and all that stuff. So I'm going to give it a C because I understood where Bischoff was coming from and what his motivations were. But like you said, he did Flair dirty. Sting was an afterthought in '94 and all that stuff. So C is the grade for me. What say you? And then we'll close it out.
Well, I liked Johnny B. Bad match until the end. So that would be a C for that match. Paul Roma and Orndorff, I like that match, so that's an A. And then
that balances out.
Austin, not because of him, it's a fucking E. Vader's a C because I like the finish. I really, really like the finish.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest is just god awful. And I'm going to give it a D plus. And the only reason I'm giving a D plus is because I'm giving the finish for the fucking Vader match makes it not a failure. And the Paul Roma tag match and liking the Johnny B. Bad match until the end, I'm going to give the plus for those two things. So D plus.
So
it had potential.
The undercard saved it for you, making it from being an F.
Yeah.
Because the main event was trash to you.
Yes.
There you go. And with that being said, we close on this episodic episode 197, Donnie Day One. I know you're not watching, so hopefully you'll be binge watching all these reflection shows on the treadmill and all that shit. So what are we gonna do next time, TW? It's been a while. We got to do a what if episode, TW. So you're gonna have to really think for the whole week, TW, because I kind of thought about this while I was watching, rewatching WrestlePalooza with the Brock Lesnar and John Cena match and all that stuff, because people started hating that match, analyzing it and critiquing it. But I thought of a different quandary, TW. What if Brock Lesnar stayed in the WWE in 2004? He did not leave. What if Brock Lesnar never left the WWE? He left in 2004. We're going to have an interesting discussion, Reflection Nights. What if he stayed his whole entire career in the WWE? The UFC never existed. The Vikings tryout never existed. The, chopping down elmwood trees and shit like that in Vancouver, British Columbia never existed.
That is in Winnipeg.
Whatever. But anyway, he just stays on the WWE train and all that stuff. What would happen with John Cena? What would happen with Batista? What would happen with Edge? Brock Lesnar was the next big thing. Does TW see Brock Lesnar being the number one guy from 2004 to 2025? Well, we're going to talk about it. We'll see if we can make some storylines make sense. So, TW, are you ready to put your booking hat on and your booking cap on with that shit?
I is.
All right. With that being said, TW, give out those socials so we can finally get out of here.
Alrighty, the Pro Wrestling Coalition Network sponsors us at PWC Network at podbean.com, where you can also find HAMIN Media Group at podbean.com. HMG is also at channelattitude.com, and our X is at PW Reflection. Big Ray Hernandez can be found all over the internet doing all kinds of stuff for all kinds of things at Big Ray Hernandez. Every Wednesday is the NXT review, Next Level, and every Tuesday is the Raw recap. And you can find me on Instagram and X at TommyWonder19. Also, Snapchat is #Wonder. Facebook.com/TommyWonder. At the Tommy Wonder is my other X, and TikTok. And you can find Big Vito and Noel at the Big Vito brand on TikTok. You don't stop.
And if you see me, hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/@Pro Wrestling Reflection, or type PW Hustle PRF. That's PW Hustle Prof. Follow my Twitter at the same name, PW Hustle Prof. Or you can follow me on the Blue Sky Reflection Nights at PW Hustle PROF.bsky.social. Reflection Nights, liberals, conservatives, I will interact with anybody and anything. So with that being said, we're going to do a what if next time. What if Brock Lesnar never left the WWE in 2004? With that being said, I'm the professor. That's Mr. Wonderful, the solo idiot, and the undisputable, undeniable, undisputed Detroit Rock City Universal Heavyweight Champion of the World, Tommy Wonder, saying good night, and we'll see you next time here at the PWSL, at the HAMIN Media Group at podbean.com. It's the new fall season. I'm still getting used to it, Reflection Nights. Peace.
All right, brother.